To be living elemental is to be living a more balanced life. I'm your host, Sara and the founder of Jade Scott Design. Through my interior design studio and feng shui practice, I awaken clients to the idea that their home is just as essential to their well-being as is to their mind and bodies. Essentially, nature's elements create balance and support, and through the lens of home, we can utilize their power when applied intentionally. Through this podcast, it is my intention to open you up to the idea that by living elemental through mind, body, and spirit will have a significant impact on your home and your life. We are back with a new episode this week. I hope you had a great holiday week last week. Last week was Thanksgiving, whether you celebrate that holiday or not. I hope that you at least found some time to spend it with loved ones. And if that also brings up a little bit of unease for you, as maybe you don't have people to share it with, I hope that you still were able to find some quiet downtime to yourself, maybe got a few days off of work, and just enjoyed the week. I did not put out an episode last week. I have to be a little bit honest here. I struggled with some content. I started recording and I hated it and I deleted it, started over, deleted it again. Then I thought, well, Thanksgiving week, maybe I should do an episode on gratitude, and caught myself scrolling and seeing that everybody in the world was doing some sort of segment on gratitude. And so I stopped that altogether as well. So I pretty much just gave up. And that's honestly one thing about being a business owner or being a podcaster. You know, the intention is to show up here every single week, whether that's through the podcast or social media, which I've taken a huge break from. But for some reason last week, I just let go of the need to show up. And you know what? I took a week off. I've been podcasting now. We're almost coming up on 50 episodes, which I'm super proud of. I think I deserve a week off. So I apologize if you were waiting for last week's episode and woke up to nothing, but it just didn't happen. I'm a human being and I'm just going to let it go. I'm letting it go. And that's what we're going to actually talk about today, is transitioning into the water element as we're leaving the metal element. The metal element is all about letting go. And as we enter the water element, we are looking to go inward and appreciate the stillness that the energy of water provides us. When we're talking about a constructive cycle with the elements, metal nourishes water, right? It kind of prepares water in a sense. You could think of great tasting drinking water. It has traces of minerals in it, and it better absorbs into our body, and it gives us those nutrients that our body craves, right? In nature, almost all bodies of water have traces of rock in them. So you could think of the seashells or rocks in a riverbed, right? Metal refines, and like a knife, it cuts out what is no longer needed. So we're transitioning from that metal energy. We entered that yin energy. A lot of the characteristics of water are introverted, intuitive, soft, inward. There's this quiet power. The color that represents water is black or really dark navy, kind of like the depths of the ocean, right? In this void of darkness is where all creation gets created. And this can be really powerful. Water in the natural world, it can cut through mountains to create streams, rivers. It literally shapes the earth, but it can also be very calm and soothing. You know, water creeping along the shoreline as you walk by, or sitting by a peaceful stream or a pond can be very calming. So working with the energy of water, we're working on stillness. We're working on recovery. We're preparing. Water is also known as this death and rebirth part of the cycle. The cycle doesn't really end. It's a continuum. But without death, rebirth can't happen. So I want you to think about, what is it that you want to cut away? What is it that you want to let go of? And work with that metal energy a little bit. But start to then think of the water element, because we're moving into that phase seasonally with winter. I can't help but think of the water element and the Bagua map. It's represented through your career section or life purpose. And it also flows a bit into knowledge and wisdom. Again, to me, that's that going inward, being still, listening to that inner voice. So back to the Bagua, I think about career and purpose. This usually sits it always sits at the front and middle of your home, but for most people, that ends up being the front door or the entry. It could also be, if your door is off to the side, it could be that knowledge and wisdom area. It could also be a helpful people or travel area. Again, if you don't have a copy of the Bagua map, I offer a free one on my website. I'll put a link down for you to grab a copy of yours. But again, for the majority of people, the career or life purpose section is going to sit in the water element. So for a lot of business owners, we're thinking about goal setting, we're preparing for the next year. A lot of intention setting happens here in the water phase. My business, for example, I have been cutting away what I no longer want or what no longer brings me joy in my business. During COVID, I picked up a lot of kitchen and bath remodeling, and I got burnt out from it. And the biggest reason I got burnt out from it was because I would do these kitchen and bath renovations, but they ended up only being conceptual because supply chain, there was a shortage of contractors. Everybody wanted to have things done, but we couldn't actually take action. So what we did was we worked on a design plan and we put together a floor plan and a source list. And then I would just turn it over to the client and say, okay, well, when your contractor's ready in 6 to 8 months, here's the plan you can give him, and go from there. And so a lot of clients chose that because they wanted to take some sort of action, and it kept me working. So it wasn't a bad thing. But then there was like no sense of completion for me. It was almost like I did all the work and then had nothing to show for it. And so I kind of got burnt out from that. And I've decided, I've been given a really great opportunity making a move to another state to reestablish my business and myself. I'm letting go of kitchen and bath. I no longer offer remodeling, no more construction plans and lighting plans and all of that. Plus, there's a lot of, where I'm at in particular, there's a lot of new construction. So nobody's ripping out their kitchens and their baths. So probably a good move anyways. So in my business, that's what I'm stripping away. I'm going to start marketing myself more as a feng shui decorator. I'm really going to be integrating a lot of what I talk about here on the podcast in my work. My signature service is elemental design, bringing the water element into a space where it's needed, right? Not just based off of aesthetics, but the flow of the house, the personality of the client and their children or their spouse. How do we make all of that work so that there's good flow through the house? So elemental interiors is going to be my signature service. By cutting away the kitchen and bath and bringing on my elemental interiors, I've sort of refined that a little bit and what that will look like. How else can I set myself apart by offering this service? What are the key things that people in this area are really going to be drawn to? And for me, that is going to come in the water phase. And I want to keep what brings me the most joy. And that's the shop. I love, love, love the shop. I haven't been able to get it really going. I mean, this move sort of shook things up for me. I'd say since summertime, the last 6 months and the rest of this year, it's just been preparing for this move and preparing not just me and my business, but my family. I've just been coordinating life. And so the business has had to take a bit of a back seat, which I'm totally okay with. But I'm excited for the water element. I am mostly dominated by wood, but I also have a strong water. And water is probably my favorite because it allows me to kind of go in. I am introverted. You probably don't see me show up on social media a lot, right? Like, because that's just not my style. I'm water, I'm in, I don't want to be out. Those who don't go out on social media a lot, those are your water elements. I plan on carrying along the shop. I just added actually a couple few new items, which I'm really excited about. And I have a few more. I actually need to set up and do a quick little photo shoot of these items. I actually have another featured artist that I'm going to be uploading soon. I have a space clearing kit that needs to get on there and a few other just little decorative accents that I think are really going to be great. But these will all be limited. So the way I source for the shop, I source by makers and artists who typically create products in small batch. And so they only make so many, and they may or may not continue to make those. So, like my green onyx cubes, I think they're adorable. They're like the perfect little paperweight or the perfect little accent on a shelf. I bought 10 of them, but when I need to restock, there's a chance that they might not be in stock. But I love that because it keeps things fresh, it keeps things new. So I love doing the shop. The shop is staying. There's a few new items on there. I would love for you to check them out and see what you think. And a few more to come as well before the end of the year. I also love podcasting and sharing things with you. I want to be a part of your healing or your transformation, having gone through that and still going through that, right? Like, I pretty much feel like we wouldn't be experiencing human life if there wasn't something to heal or transcend. And so I want to be a part of that for you because, by the way, healing, transformation, that going inward, that is all water elements. So many of us right now are going through that. And I want to be a part of that for you because I know how lonely it can be if you're in a relationship, married, not married. It's not typical that both of you are going to be going through that at the same time. So even within your own family unit, there's this feeling of isolation. And even though that is signature water element, it's also important to make sure we're balanced. So being a part of that is something important to me. I want to be a voice of insight or ideas, sharing not only feng shui related material, but also healing the mind and the body and not just the home and how they all intertwine together. Just becoming more aware of yourself, your surroundings, your habits, your dreams, bringing those to fruition. I want to be a part of that through you. And I hope to do that through podcasting. So if there are things you want to let go of, you still have a little bit of time with the metal element to start to think about, what are you ready to let go of? What isn't serving you? What can be cut away from your life? It doesn't have to necessarily be anything related to your career. That's just my example. And that is the area of your home that directly correlates to the water element. At the time of this recording, it's also a full moon. Full moon is on November 27th. This is coming out the 28th. You still have that lingering full moon energy, right? The full moon allows for letting go. This particular full moon is called the beaver blood moon. The beaver, like many animals, are preparing for hibernation. That's the water element, going inward. And during that time, we're also sort of germinating. What's next? So just like it's a cycle of death and rebirth, we're cutting things away to allow for the new. What do I want to bring into my life? What has been on my heart for expansion? What do I need to prepare? So asking these questions and then going inward, cultivate some ideas and insights, follow those intuitive leads. So the activities to do just that for the water element include things like meditation, napping, if you can squeeze that in, journaling, taking more bath soaks, practicing gentle movement activities like yin yoga or tai chi, making yourself a spa treatment, creative art projects like painting or sketching or drawing. These are all really relaxing, slow-paced activities, and that's what water is encouraging us to do. It's telling us to relax, slow down, rejuvenate, because spring and the yang energy of wood is going to be here before we know it. And so water is telling us to take time right now to rest. Water literally calms the nervous system. So in summary, transitioning from the metal element to the water element is all about letting go, cutting away, What's no longer serving me? What can I make room for? And then allowing space for stillness through the activities that I just offered, bringing a more slow paced, mindful practice to your life every single day in as many moments as you can during the day is going to allow for that intuition to come through. Because we're not only cutting away, we're also being really mindful about what's next and how do I bring what's next to fruition? Well, that happens in the water phase. But in order to get that information, you've got to find some stillness, connect with the water element, and be amazed at what comes up. I'd love to hear what you plan on cutting away. I'd love to hear what you're working on for next year. And speaking of next year, here's what I've got going on over at Jade Scott Design. I am now officially based in Austin, Texas, and serving all of Travis and Hayes counties. I also just did a little cleaning up on my website. My signature service, as I just spoke about, is Elemental Interiors. It's basically a hybrid of interior decorating and feng shui. We address the flow of space in addition to adding elemental accents throughout the home that are done rather intentionally based off the goals and the lifestyle of clients. We offer a lot of color consultation through the use of paint, but also through textiles such as custom window treatments and drapery. We also integrate other coordinated accents such as custom pillows, tabletop items, and decorative art and objects. Although I'm not offering kitchen, bath, or other structural remodeling services, I am available to help make final finish selection for your remodel if you are working with a contractor or a builder. Also, the shop is now back open. We are again officially set up to do business in Texas. There are a few new items in the shop, and I also, part of my website cleanup, I organized the shop by each element. So if after listening to today's episode and you think you might need a little something to help integrate the water element into your workspace or your quiet space, take a look at what's there. If I were to make a suggestion, I'd go with the 5-element mala, or you can never go wrong with a feng shui crystal ball. We actually have some that are integrated with a metal sun catcher, which they are really beautiful hanging in the light, and they make really lovely gifts as well. As for the podcast, I am taking the month of December off from recording new episodes to air this year. I'm thinking about re-releasing my most downloaded episodes. I might do like a top 3, as I know some of you might be new to the podcast, so I want to be sure you hear our top guest interviews. I'm so grateful for all of my guests this year. Y'all are absolutely incredible. You're doing amazing work out there in the world, and you inspire me every single day. As I reflect on what I've created with the podcast over the course of this year, I know I want to refine some things, but I also want to make space for new ideas to emerge in order to help it grow and reach more people. I have a few things I already know I'm going to tweak, including a name change, shortening up the intro segment, and I don't know. I'll see what else comes to me during my time of reflection, bringing all of that water energy to the podcast. If you have any feedback about what you'd like to see happen with the podcast, I am all ears. This show is for you just as much as it is for me. And of course, I value your opinion as a listener. Lastly, if you feel called to leave a review, I'd love to hear from you before closing out the year. Be sure to subscribe so that you are notified of all new episodes once they do release. You all have been so good to me. I leave you this year with a full heart. Until next time, much love and gratitude.